Welcome to Every Doctor's Defining Moments, a video in which I define every Doctor's defining moments. Do we have to do an intro? Or has everyone got the gist? Okay, sick. Number 13. Despite a whole series and a handful of expanded media under her belt already, I think it's fair to say the 13th Doctor has not left enough of an impression yet. Whether you love her or hate her, the 13th Doctor hasn't had many moments to shine. Because the writing simply was not there. She has no big Pandorica speech. There's no glaringly iconic "I'm a Doctor" moments. Nothing. I think this series gave her nothing. But then I asked some of you, and I rewatched Series 11, and there's some good 13th Doctor moments already out there going completely unappreciated. The standoff with Kraskell, where we see her Doctor can still intimidate. Probing underneath the surface with King James. A really good monologue. And of course when she finds her beloved ghost monuments. Yeah, they're not perfect, and sometimes that sentimentality is borrowed from other eras. But looking past the fantastic comics and novels, there's one moment in the TV series that really sold me, spun me on the idea that this Doctor can bring something new to the table without parroting Smith and Tennant. A moment entirely unique to her. And that, for me, can be found here.
I know there aren't many certainties in any of our lives. But Umbrian, Prem, something I believe in my faith. Love. You both found love with each other. You believed in it, you fought for it, and you waited for it. And now, you're committing to it. Which makes you, right now, the two strongest people on this planet. Maybe in this universe.
Just an absolute breath of fresh air. And it's that new lease of life that the 13th Doctor has the absolute potential to bring. Hey, friendly reminder that the 12th Doctor's world weariness and constant loss led to him being suicidal. And we don't talk about that enough. On the surface, a departure from the angst and darkness of previous runs may seem like it's lacking development, but that boundless happiness, that recovery, it's the natural progression of this program. Now, Demons of the Punjab was actually my favourite of that past year, but that's only because it was so bold enough to try new things, and that includes with the Doctor. You can't plant any other Doctor into those shoes. The girly flowers in her hair, that nervous, awkward, excited energy, the utter lack of angst, cynicism and darkness that had been plaguing the character since the revival. Now, those were very key character elements which made me fall in love with the character, but you can't keep paddling the same Time Warp blues forever. Every single time in Series 11 where Whittaker had to roll up her sleeves and try and give a diminishing, threatening speech, it fell flat on its face. Whether it was to Tim Shaw, Trump, a Dalek or Amazon middle management, it just did not play. And on two separate occasions in the story, Vinay Patel writes to the 13th Doctor's strengths. Simply stating to me that you are the Doctor may be good for other people, but it's not enough for me. This is the first scene where I truly believed it. As I always believe, the Doctor will be driven more by love and compassion and goodness than science or a greater good. It sounds schmaltzy, but the principles are there. Finally spoke in dialogue that sounds new. 12, on the other hand, was written by Stephen Moffat, meaning there are no shortages of brilliant scenes, compelling dialogues, and expertly played performances. There's so many to pick from. I can't go on being somebody else. Pity. I'd hoped there'd be stars. The man who stops the monsters, or basically any single time a good man plays on the soundtrack. Guaranteed gold. I also really like the bit about Beethoven's Fifth, even if only because it feels like Daddy Capaldi's actually talking to me. But I've really thought it over, and I think my favourite has to be the final regeneration speech. Yeah, heads up, some of these are going to be coming from very unpopular episodes, but this is just the most perfect moment, the perfect distillation of Doctor Who. Run fast, be kind. The reason I cried at Christmas 2017 was simply because Stephen Moffat and Peter Capaldi signed off by pouring their own affections, their own sentimentalities about the programme from their own childhoods into the dialogue. When Capaldi states everything it takes to be a doctor, when Moffat writes about sometimes my name could be heard by children, we're nearly breaking the fourth wall in terms of explicitly stating the mission statement, the magic of this character and the legacy of the program. Because whilst this program has a mass demographic for everyone, it takes on such a different profound meaning for children. Capaldi wasn't just playing the Doctor, Capaldi was playing Doctor Who. Fun fact, as I was saying goodbye to my favourite ear of the show, showrunner and Doctor, you can pinpoint the exact moment my heart breaks. There. Yep, that shot, the moment it really sunk in that my run is coming to an end. He delayed and he delayed, but thank God Stephen Moffat gave the mother of all Moffat monologues right at the very end. And the very fact that his whole motivation as a character was an ongoing character arc of, am I a good man, becoming a more fully rounded, decent person. He struggled with the very foundations of the Doctor, so he's gonna make sure that the next one gets it right. There is nothing better. The 11th Doctor? It's gotta be Pandorica, right? Smith was a monologue machine, but actually I'm gonna go with one better. Indeed, my favourite moment of the 11th Doctor's era is here, in Time of the Doctor, an old 11, surrounded by drawings of monsters and the man who beats the monsters. Are you seeing a pattern? I like my grandfatherly themes. But what follows that really heartbreaking moment and another great line?
I haven't got a plan, but people love it when I say that.
Comes another declaration about the programme and its intent.
You have expended all your lives! Sorry? What did you say? Did you mention the rules?
Just a big middle finger to the Dalek Empire and essentially saying, rules? You want to talk to the archetypal trickster about rules? Oh, sorry to break it to you, babe. This show doesn't have any rules. And whilst that declaration may piss off some diehards, it does fucking rule. This speech is said in the face of a literal Deus Ex Machina as God intervenes in the sky and saves the day. It feels like such bold-faced acceptance that I simply do not care. Because, as usual, there may not be a logic solution, but there was an emotional resolution. The climax is still every bit as earned. This is Doctor Who laying its cards on the table, reminding you that this story is boundless. It's not restricted by canon or archaic rules on a wiki. You either like or really dislike Moffat's treatment of the character, but you can't deny he understood the very heart and core of the programme. When talking about 10, I really do have to remind myself that all the best stuff is in that final year of specials. Time Lord Victorious, I don't want to go. No, nothing tops this very specific moment in The End of Time Part 2. Look at those performances. It's the very peak of David Tennant's acting range. It's Bernard Cribbins bringing his A-game, and these are both top-tier actors, just put in a scene to talk during a finale. During the climax, even. This is the final time they see each other until the very end. But, I don't know, I can't even really articulate how perfect a performance this is. It's an actor's scene.
Don't you dare put him before them. Now you take this, that's an order, Doctor. Take the gun. You take the gun and save your life. And please don't die, you're the most wonderful man, and I don't want you to die.
Just in 5 minutes, David Tennant goes from shame to pride, from pacifism to this. What would drive the 10th Doctor to pick up that gun? Something he's always been, if anything, too vocal about not doing. Will it be a scene as powerful as this?
I've taken lives. I got worse, I got clever. Manipulated people into taking their own.
That's it, Tennant. Earn that BAFTA. It's here that 10 accepts his own death. For 90, that seems simple. You could always point to Parting of the Ways and the Coward Not Killer speech. Or perhaps the dramatic tension of Boomtown. Maybe the bit in Rose where he tells her who I am. Maybe the bold environmentalist message in Heaton Park, or maybe the record highs of Boomtown. Okay, but for real, it's the Doctor dances. Just this once, Rose, everybody lives. Wow, there's a lot of Moffat in here, huh? Well, no, this line is perfect. This resolution is so special to this one incarnation, a PTSD-ridden romantic of a man who's just trying to get back into the sway of things. The fact that something went right for him. You solved a war, whilst you're standing in wartime Britain. This moment could play for any of the Doctors, but it takes on a special significance with Eccleston.
Welcome back! 20 years of pop music. You're gonna love it.
Over to 8. Physician, heal thyself is a truly great scene. What a great bit of acting. But I'd personally like to redirect you to the 2019 Big Finish audio drama, Lives in Ruins. A story so good, I will actually do something rare on this channel and throw up a spoiler warning for the Legacy of Time box sets. Because what happens within those 45 minutes is the lowest low the Doctor has ever sunk to.
Look at that! See what's happening to your bombs? They're being eaten by a defense shield I just conjured out of thin air. With power like that, do you really want to battle with me? Do you? Previously you were just bombing ruins. Let's give you something better to aim at, something grander. Arise! I command it! Look at all this! I'm rebuilding Gallifrey, stone by stone, the whole planet.
It's beautiful. I've never seen the Doctor so powerful before. He's like a god.
Do I have to say anything more? If that sounded mental to you, get on it. James Goss is a mad genius when he delivers. The Doctor at his most powerful is also him at his very weakest. In what is clearly the final days of the 8th Doctor, the PTSD is latching on hard, and the 8th Doctor's inaction is taken out as guilt, as he throws all of his firepower at 2 idiot junkers way beneath his pay grade. For me, not only is this a unique moment in all of Doctor Who that everybody should listen to, but it also encapsulates the best of McGann. He covered the entire range of the Doctor in his many, many years, but he was always good at cold, alien distance. Because yes, in the 8th Doctor's run, he did not even blink at the death of a companion. He turned on Charlie immediately when he thought his TARDIS was lost. And the companion in this? So desperately tragic, I can't even spoil. McGann's silky smooth, but also very weighty voice lends itself to a character with so much weight on their shoulders. Seven. May I show you this moment from The Happiness Patrol? In which the Doctor, with only words, convinces a man to not shoot him and give him his gun.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
A life killing life.
Who are you?
Shut up. Why don't you do it then? Look me in the eye. Pull the trigger. End my life.
No,
Why not?
I can't.
Why not?
I don't know.
You don't, do you? Throw away your gun.
Now that might sound like pretty standard pacifist fare for the Doctor, but there's quite a lot going on in this scene. Not only is there the irony that the Doctor will eventually be shot down by a man looking him in the eye, but it's also the first time we see the Doctor truly being manipulative. The 7th Doctor at this point is still a very comical entity, but there is nothing played light about this scene. The inversion of power is very clinical. It's angry pacifism. There is nothing but disgust on McCoy's face throughout it. Just disgust that he's the kind of man who would hold a gun at an unarmed person in the first place. It's a really chilling moment, and it speaks true of where the character is taken later on in his run. I would have also accepted the Pandorica speech. Every great decision creates ripples. Oh, that's a runner-up, by the way, because it's the same story where he ponders on his actual true power with time travel. And in the same story commits genocide. Coincidence? I think not. Six and 5 are easy, they're the fan favourites, you know the ones. I'm just going to play them over top of each other and hope you get the gist.
How demonstrated knowledge, tolerance, psychonet. They're still in that nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's...
For this one, it was really tough to look past all the funny one-liners and the iconic quotes, because lots of them weren't very specific or telling of this Doctor. He didn't open up. Famous quotable lines for centuries because it's Tom Baker, but yeah, from this point on the Doctors don't really speak their minds. So I would like to include, if possible, all of Scratchman.
Even the Time Lords are afraid of something. And tonight, I'm going to show you what that is. Are you sitting comfortably? Of course you are. And I'm rather afraid that's the problem.
A story that is so personal to the Fourth Doctor that it reads like Tom Baker's autobiography through the narrative of a Doctor Who story. So many iconic scenes. What is this Doctor scared of? And the answer is the same as Tom Baker's answer. Him not being able to be the Doctor anymore. For me, it's when he's skipping stones on the beach with the 13th, and they're just both discussing the Doctor role and what it means to them. Much like Capaldi's goodbye, this is an actor who understood the role more than anyone else on the planet. And before they pop off, they're going to let us know how important the role was to them. So yeah, that beach ending, probably right there. But there's also another one where he's talking to his previous incarnations in Scarecrow form. All of them just chiding him, mocking him. And as fan servicey as that is, it's also a really privileged look into the enigmatic Fourth Doctor and his headspace. There has never been a more authentic Fourth Doctor story. Really, any moment where this Doctor stops smiling, my blood runs cold. Number 3. If we wanted the most defining moment, like the truest Pertwee moment, it would be the 2-episode car chase. It just would be. So instead I'm actually going to pick my favourite, which also comes from the Legacy of Time box set. It's really good. Go get it. As previously discussed, Pertwee's Doctor is not a crier. A very stern upper lip. More of a traditional archetype of a hero. A British hero.
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
He is not one for showing weakness, which makes the ending of Green Death incredibly tragic.
Your wedding present.
It's beautiful.
Instead of the fact that he's been marooned to Earth, the Third Doctor actually gets a lot more upset on screen by the fact that all of his companions seem to leave. Not only was the Doctor genuinely hurt by the departure of Liz Shaw, but then he had to say goodbye all over again with Jo Grant. And that slow walk back to Bessie says it all. What a powerful bit of TV out of nowhere in what I consider to be a really weak roundabout story. Doctor Who didn't do this. And pensive was definitely a new emotion for the Third Doctor. Man pain. Not a word said, but my god, the sadness is on his sleeves. His giant frilly sleeves. But then in the Legacy of Time, we finally get closure, as an older Jo Grant travels back to the 70s for one final goodbye to her Doctor. The whole plot is in service of these two sitting down and having a talk, having a goodbye. But instead, this time, the Third Doctor is surprisingly verbose. This story, it's intensely satisfying. And though the Third Doctor was flippant and sometimes demeaning, I believe every single word of it. The Third Doctor needed his companions more than he let on. Now, Troughton has a couple great moments underneath his belt, but the one I'm going straight in for is his death. The forced regeneration scene at the hands of the Time Lords. No, forced regeneration? Exile? Let's get this right. the Time Lords killed the Second Doctor. Even if you're one of those weird fans that thinks the Time Lords recruited the Doctor to the CIA and then sent him to Earth, it just really struck me the other day how tragic and impactful this moment is. He doesn't get a glorious send-off, he doesn't get a final speech to say goodbye to his era. The Second Doctor is mid-sentence, as he is sentenced. His final lines are more about picking a new appearance for himself, which is also a little bit fitting when you think about how he was the Master of Disguise Doctor. The Second Doctor ended in a comedy bit. Maybe it is the perfect send-off after all. The War Games, not a strong favourite, but even I can admit this was a fitting ending for a Doctor that was a tactician. Whether working with the human colonies or down underground with a unit hatching up a plan to nuke the Cybermen with Russia. And in the War Games, there's just no tactics left. He is completely outplayed. And though he is allowed a final goodbye with his human friends, he's still playing the parent role and making sure they do not get upset as it's happening. It's sudden, it's sad, but the Doctor is making sure he's fiercely loyal and protecting his companions even to the very end. Finally, 1. Now this is more an era of defining the Doctor. You won't find one specific moment that explains his whole tenure, as the first 3 seasons of Doctor Who are defining this character. It's so satisfying to see the Doctor slowly becoming the character we know today, where originally he's a rather cowardly, selfish, elitist of a man. He doesn't even take on a traditional hero archetype until arguably the Dalek invasion of Earth. So in the Romans, when this Doctor is allowed to let loose and play more of a comical role in the show's 2nd season, you get this adorable BBC action scene out of nowhere.
The answer is, of course, is not to be caught playing it. Oh, so you want to fight? You know, I'm so constantly outwitting the opposition, I tend to forget the delights and satisfaction of the arts, the gentle art of fisticuffs.
Not only does the Romans allow a more impish and playful side of this mysterious man to come out, but everything about the premise feels like the Doctor is finally finding his feet. Not only do we have the first outing of new companion Vicky, a new TARDIS edition that shows that the Doctor has come very far since episode 1, now that he's mellowing out and having more fun with time travel and humans around him, we're starting to see that more comical, playful side to him, including one of the show's first instances of the Doctor pretending to be somebody else. It may shock you to learn that the first Doctor was not even very good at lying, something that would go on to define the character at large. So when the Doctor takes on the guise of Maximus Botulian, it feels like the seeds of the trickster are being born, and he's finally getting into the swing of things. And another great example is of course the 10th planet. Whilst it may not have been intended as the closure to the First Doctor's arc, to him becoming a more altruistic, compassionate hero, and more so describing the cool little monsters that the art department knocked up, that's exactly what it does. The First Doctor has learned all of those emotions through his human companions.
Emotions, love, pride, hate, fear. Have you no emotions, sir?
Without the influences of Ian and Barbara, Vicky, Stephen, everyone, the Doctor in that first story, about to bludgeon a caveman to death with a rock, would not have been capable of this final monologue. And, hey, it also introduces the Cybermen. Bellissimo. Beautiful. If I wanted to be a real Moffat-biased fanboy, I would have picked Twice Upon a Time!